Okay, first order of business, if you need to go, please do, don't be shy. If you need to get a taste of your banana pudding before you go, please do, don't be shy. I will try and keep this short and leave time for questions at the end. There aren't many commodities, and what I'm going to do is talk first about the situation with oil prices and then talk a little bit less on policy. We've heard a lot of policy points already today. And I want to say I thank you, and I'm honored to be here. I think all of you know a lot about energy and energy policy, so if I can't tell you anything new, maybe it's something in the way I say something that'll be interesting for you, but we'll just shoot forward now. Commodity prices, you know, everything you buy in your lifetime, there's not much that you're going to go out and purchase that's advertised all over the streets in 3-foot-high letters. So it's no wonder that you pay very close attention to the price of gasoline and you respond to it, because there's no other thing that you're going to buy in your life that's advertised and priced the way that it is for legal reasons, incidentally, the way gasoline is. So certainly we've seen very high prices this year, the highest ever, and that was the big news for much of the year. And right now we're in a hurricane kind of spike situation. So I want to talk for a minute about prices. And we also had a major event on the market in terms of how crude oil is priced yesterday. So this year we had price shoot up. And this is a graph, and if you can't see it, don't worry about it, I'm going to describe it. This is a graph that shows the price of crude oil on the bottom in a dark blue line, and on top are the prices of gasoline and diesel at the retail level in green and red lines. And the most notable feature about this graph is the relationship over time is fairly stable. So you have the price of crude and the price of gasoline and diesel hanging there in a pretty stable relationship. The reason, of course, being that crude oil is what is used to make gasoline. So sometimes people, you know, I think not you, but maybe the people that you're dealing with sometimes get the impression that gasoline is going everywhere and anywhere for no reason. Actually, it's driven by the price of the commodity that is used to make it, crude oil, which sells on an international marketplace by many buyers and sellers. Most people don't realize the United States is the third largest producer of oil in the world. We're number 3. We produce 8% of the world's oil right here in the United States. Number 1 and 2, Saudi Arabia, you might have guessed, how much of the market? 12%. Okay? And Russia is number 2, 12%. So we do have a global, a global commodity that's bought and sold by many parties all over the world. Today, more of the world's oil resources, reserves, the oil that can be produced tomorrow, are controlled by national oil companies that have some close relationship with their national governments, like Saudi Arabia, like Venezuela, also in Asia, Malaysia, like Nigeria. So most of the world's reserves, more than 2/3, almost more than 3/4 of the world's reserves are owned by these national oil companies. International oil companies, the companies whose earnings you hear about here in the United States, they control about 6% of the world's reserves. So sometimes another thing you encounter are people who think that there's someone out there doing something with the price of oil, but it's not the international oil companies. They don't control the oil. They did back a long time ago. They had a lot of the reserves, but that changed a lot over the last 30 years. So that's, the notable feature is the high price. I said, the thing to see is that stable relationship over time. The other thing to take away from this today is the number 42. And 42 is the number of gallons in a barrel of oil. And if you ever forget it and you want to find it, just say gallons per barrel oil on Google, and it'll come right up, 42, 42, 100, some thousand clicks, I'm sure. But the reason that's helpful to know is because we think about crude oil in barrels. We know that crude oil hit 145, almost 150. We know it's over $100 a barrel. But then we go to the gas station and we buy it in gallons. And so what's the translation? The translation is 42, divide by 42. So when crude oil hit 145, that was $3.45 a gallon just for the crude oil. So that's not refining it, not turning it into gasoline, not paying federal taxes or state taxes on it, which are nationally averaging 47 cents. So you could add 45, 50 cents if you want to get the taxes in there, and then everything in between would be refining, marketing, transporting it around the country. But so 145, that was $3.45 a gallon. So you can see right there a lot of the explanation of the marketplace. But we did see this year, we saw prices go from a lower level way up, almost to $150, $145 a barrel, and then come back down. And a lot of people say, well, what is that about? How can that be supply and demand? But I tell you it is, and that's what most people don't realize. We are using a futures market to watch the price of a commodity, to watch the price of crude oil. So we're looking at financially traded contracts on Wall Street because it's the best indicator we have for the price of oil. It's where you have the most people buying and selling. And what you're getting, the information that you're getting from them when you look at that price of oil is not just what is the balance between supply and demand today, right now, but what is the expectation in the near future? What is it going to take to balance the market next year or 2 years from now? So that price that you're seeing, it is supply and demand, but it is both supply and demand right now and also an incorporation of expectation. So what we saw was a very tight market. We had some crude oil that was slow coming on the market this year from non-OPEC production sites and also some OPEC production sites. So we had very tight supply and demand. Demand pressure has been building because of all this economic growth all over the world, and people began to get very worried about how we're going to balance this market in the future. That's why those prices ran up. And there was no sign of demand responding. Demand was just chugging along. So people got more and more worried, and price just kept creeping up. And that is supply and demand. And then what you saw was the information. Americans, first of all, responded. Americans actually showed that they can become very energy efficient. There was a lot of cutback, record drops in gasoline consumption around this country this year. So there is a lot of efficiency that can take place just from those small actions, just from trying to conserve a little on your household budget because it's hard on your budget. So we see a big demand drop in the United States, and the information that comes in from overseas is slower coming. So we did begin to learn that, okay, developing countries, we see the demand responding there. So that's why the price drops back off. And then again, I mentioned we had some supply that was late coming to the market. It was always forecast to get to the market finally after some construction delays by the end of 2008. So we have additional supplies hitting the marketplace, and all of these things are combining. It still involves Nigeria and how much unrest is in Nigeria and how much oil is coming out of that country on a specific day. It still involves the uncertainty of the investment environment in Russia, where a lot of oil is located. All these things are folded into this price, but those are some of the major reasons why you see this up and down. And I want to talk quickly about the hurricanes and the spike that you're experiencing right now in Georgia, the shortages at the pump, and the lessons that we learned from Katrina Rita, because what we learned is markets really work, and they work really, really well. In fact, there's probably no better solution to having things interrupt your system than to let markets work, and that's what economists always say, the solution to high prices is high prices. Because what high prices do, and you see right sitting above 2005 is a little spike where gasoline and diesel went up really quick and came down really quickly. And that was Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. Because what happened is all that disruption in the Gulf area, all the refineries shut down, the pipelines shut down, there was this massive disruption in the system that's taking the crude oil, getting it into gasoline and getting it delivered. And so that's why the price differentiated between the crude oil and the products. And those high prices attracted a great deal of supply. Refineries that could postpone their maintenance schedules to keep pumping supply into the system, and that's happening today. We've had refineries announce postponements in their maintenance schedules so that they can supply additional gasoline right now into this high-price market. Places that wouldn't normally import fuel started importing fuel off the international market, so you had very much a market-based response. A lot of supply came in. The infrastructure came back online after the hurricanes. All that supply, prices went back down. So that's the best force that consumers can have. The most economic solution for them is not going to be some kind of control on prices. It's not going to be some kind of government-mandated supply so that they always have it, because those solutions don't work. Consumers don't respond to that. They respond to price. So that's a very powerful signal right there. One thing to put on your radar screen with respect to the market today and where we're headed is now into a winter heating season, and that's something that matters a little bit less down here in Georgia. But what's going to be the big deal now as we roll into the fall is going to be the rest of the United States trying to get heating oil together and have heating oil supplies for the fall, because we have had 20 to 25% of our refining capacity offline for a number of days, even weeks, with these hurricanes. So it's less likely to be on the radar here. I think here what you're going to see is as the refineries come up and gasoline can flow into the system, it'll rebalance actually quite quickly around here where you're having all this short-term disruption. So that's what I wanted to talk about on prices. And they play very much into an important policy role. Let these market forces work. And we've heard a lot about energy policy recommendations. I was going to talk about forecasts. If you're interested in the forecasts for oil prices, this is from the Energy Information Administration, non-political, independently funded by Congress. So you can see they're near term on the top two lines, oil and gasoline both being a little bit more higher on average this coming year, next year, than they are right now. But no sort of steadily increasing price and no dramatic fall either. And that you basically have the same thing for the long-term forecast. But the priorities that I have on this slide are priorities for policy that you've already heard 3 times today, so I'm going to try and go very quickly over them. We need efficiency, and just like you might not have heard utilities say, you're here in the oil and gas industry say it, we need efficiency, we need renewables. Bring it all on. We need everything right now. Who wants to pay these prices? We need to increase supply. So there's no opposition on our part to renewables or to alternative forms of energy. We need them. We need them in market-based approaches that make sense, but we definitely need all of it. And I think for many people that are involved in industries and in business, you understand efficiencies already because businesses are driven by them. That's why, that's your bottom line, that's your cost. So actually the oil and gas industry is driven by that. That's, trying to keep costs down at a refinery means capturing the heat and using it as cogeneration in a refinery process. So, that's going to be very important. We need it at all levels of the United States in ways we haven't seen before for efficiency. And technology is a big driver. Technology is a driver to getting efficiency. The senator was talking about the sticker on the light switch, reminding you to turn it off. What do we have now? We have sensors now. So if you don't want to turn it off, it'll turn it off for you. In fact, you better move around in your office, otherwise the lights are going to go out. That's the way technology can help. And it helps in the oil and gas industry. What we've learned to do there is use cutoff valves that are below the surface of the ocean floor so that the hurricanes can come through. The oil and gas is shut off by a valve below the surface of the ocean floor. That's why we got through Hurricane Katrina and Rita and these past hurricanes with no major spills from oil and gas exploration and production. Those processes are not putting oil into the ocean. There's more oil in the ocean naturally from seeps than there are from the exploration and production process. So a lot of technologies are used, remote processes, underwater submersibles, all of these kinds of things. Technology is a big way that will achieve the energy policies and the energy goals that we want to achieve. Finally, diversity, all supplies. We need oil, gas. We need all forms of oil. We have a lot of oil and natural gas in this country. That's what Suzanne was talking about earlier. I'd say it applies to oil as well. And I'll stop there so we can take questions. Thank you.